Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for watching Trowel Talk, and a big thanks to those of you that have subscribed recently to the channel. Welcome to the channel. So on this video this week we're going to look at ceilings. We've had loads of ceilings over the last week, and a few different variations in the spec. So this one that Curtis is doing, this is a SKIM over onto ARTEX. We've got the whole property to do. We're going to start in this bedroom and work around. So we'll show you what we're doing here, and we also did a couple of jobs that involved, one involved ripping a lath and plaster ceiling down completely, because the joists were completely shot to pieces and they were really bowed. Probably one of the worst ceilings that I've seen in the whole time I've been on the trowel, which over 20 years. It was really, really bad. Beyond framing out and beyond overboard. Sometimes we can chop out the bow and try and make good then overboard, which we've done before, but this one was too far gone, and the customer actually said that she'd noticed over the years the ceiling seemed to be getting lower, which was a big concern. So I said, look, it's going to have to come down, see what we can see underneath. So we pulled that down. Well, Curtis pulled it down. I didn't pull it down. How did you get on with that one, Kurt?
Oh, it was a nightmare. Absolute nightmare.
You looked like a chimney sweep by 3 o'clock. I dodged the bullet that day because I was out quoting, and Kurt and Matt had the nice job of ripping down the lath and plaster ceiling. Yeah, anyway, we'll run through that and how we fixed it, how we fixed the joist, which basically involved securing the joist back up to the bridge plate, and then overlaying new timbers on top of the joist to level it all up. I did give the customer the option, once we'd shored the timbers up and tried to straighten them out a bit, I did give the customer the option to frame out just below the old ceiling, but she didn't want to do that because she'd be losing too much head height. So we decided the best option was to overlay some 4x2 onto the existing joists, and that way we're not losing any head height. But we'll run you through that. And then the third ceiling was a job that was tested positive for asbestos. So the customer had a company rip down the ceilings, and me and Matt have gone in and just bored and skimmed. So that was a straightforward one, but we'll show you. I'll try and lob all three jobs on this video to show you what we've been up to. And again, massive thanks for those that have subscribed. If you've got any questions on ceilings, any areas that you're struggling with, ask Curtis and he'll answer all your technical questions. Is that right, Kurt?
Yeah, that's right.
How far's the ceiling running out by, Kurt?
90 mil.
Oh, yeah, that's not a bad guess. Yeah, you can put it. 80 mil.
80 mil.
That's how much the joists are running out. We've shored up the middle, bolted that to the ridge point. And we're attaching some 4x1 onto each joist. Got the middle as tight as we can. Just show them this bit, Kurt. We can't take that bow out any more than what we have. So we're situating them flush there at the lowest point, and then each side is dropping down by about 75 mil. So I have to run these all the way around, and it flies into the landing. It'll fly into the landing area as well. So we'll put some 3x2 framing over the top of this to tie in with that. So where these will run through, we'll build that down, build this side down. What are you doing?
bag split.
Take this time out your wages.
See, I told you.
So we've got this horrible ceiling all levelled up and shored up. Matt's just boarded the timbers and framed all this side out, ready for boarding with some 3x2. We've just gone round the loft hatch here as well. So it's been a right mish, this one. You see here, look. Runs out by 75mm, right down to nothing, which is flush in the middle there. Probably the worst one we've seen. I reckon that worst one.
Yeah, it is.
It's like a chimney sweep, look. Got to be the worst one we've seen. But yeah, we've sorted it, and it's nice and level now. Lost about 4 inches off the existing height, but you can see that line where it used to be, where it used to dip. But the worst bit was right in the middle here. So I'll show you the pictures. I'll put a sticker up here somewhere to show you. But yeah, we'll get this one boarded. Matt's going to skim it on Monday. I'm on another job, and we'll show you the end result. Quiet though, isn't it? So I've started this one yesterday. Tested positive for asbestos, this one. So customers had a company in and they've removed all the ceilings, and straightforward really. We're just putting new plasterboards up. In this room here as well. So yeah, 1/2 inch board straight on the timbers, and we're going to start skimming a bit later on today. We'll put a time lapse on if I can get the camera to, there we go. First coat on, guys. Little tip for you is, when the ceilings get ripped down, sometimes you can have a little bit of damage around the top of the ceiling lines, like you can see here. What we find is to get it nice and neat, the easiest way is to just use your twitcher. We use these Ragney corner trowels. We like these because they're rounded on the edges. Just run it through on both passes. It'll normally backfill it for you. You normally have a bit of fat on the corners anyway where you've troweled on, and then when you run your twitcher across, it will backfill it and it'll give you a nice sharp corner. Do that on both passes, and then just run your water brush round the edges and trowel it in as like you normally would patching. and it saves going around the whole ceiling line with your trowel, working down. Just use your twitcher, run it straight across. But yeah, that's the first one on. If me and Matt are working together, typically what we'll do is one of us will start in the middle, and then one the opposite end, so that as we're both working back, we don't clash and get in each other's way. Or we create a band across the middle and we'll both turn the opposite way and start troweling away from each other. We find that's the most efficient way. Everyone's different, obviously. Everybody works differently. But yeah, if you're doing one on your own, if we're working on our own, typically we'll either start one end and keep working back that way, or get the perimeter of the ceiling on all the way around and then fill the main body in the middle. So yeah, there's no right or wrong way really. It's a case of getting it on how well best suits you. I'd always recommend getting yourself a speed skim. I talked about that briefly on about these tools on another video. Game changers for ceilings. Get yourself a speed skim and pole. We use the 1200s. So you lay on, flatten off with those, and makes your life a lot easier. Hit the gear while it's wet. Get yourself a corner trowel. Get yourself a pair of the work tool boots. And it does make the ceilings a lot easier using these tools. You reach this one? Hey, don't need the boots. Yeah, Matt boarded this one on his own yesterday. Well, I say on his own, he had Curtis with him.
Pretty much on my own.
Yeah, not quite there yet, is he, with the plasterboarding? We'll get him there. But yeah, he's doing a little bit of cutting. Still getting used to the tape measure, to be honest. So we're still getting him familiar with the tape. And hopefully college will help him out with that a little bit as well. We'll get him on the boards eventually. We'll get this second coat knocked up then. Second coat on, spatted. Might have time for a coffee now. We're just coming to the final stage of the set. I've just started to cross trowel it now into the light source, which will hide any small blemishes. Cross trowel it the other way. cross trowel it the wrong way and it tends to pick up more surface blemishes. So always trowel into your light when you're coming toward the end of your set. Right guys, quick tip for you. If you're rolling PVA glue onto white background, just on this cut, so like this ceiling, we're doing this ARTEX ceiling, which is white, and obviously PVA is white or translucent. Sometimes, especially if you've got silk paint like this, you won't be able to see very clearly where you've rolled the glue. So what we do, you can chuck food dye into the PVA or sand, but you haven't got any of that. Just chuck a few handfuls of bonding coat straight into your glue, and it'll give it a nice salmon pinky colour like that, and it will also give it a bit of arrogant and a bit of grip. Get yourself some blue painter's tape, hippo tape. Run it round the top of your ceiling lines so that when you're cutting in with your PVA, you haven't got to be all neat and tidy and worrying about sloshing it onto the walls, especially if you're not plastering the walls. So you just chuck some of your tape round like this, and then you can just lob this on when you're cutting in, and you haven't got to worry if it's not perfectly neat and tidy around the edge. When you peel that tape away, you'll have a lovely clean crisp edge where the plaster meets the wall. That PVA is nice and dry now. We've used a fan on there to dry it off. We've got our weapons of mass production here, guys. Curtis is still using the Mediflex at the minute, just for practicing. He's not quite there with the finishing and polishing. This is sort of a semi-flexible steel on this trowel. It's a spare trowel that me and Matt had on the van, but we don't use. Didn't get on with it too well, so it was just gathering dust. So Curtis is using this while he learns, and when he's ready we'll upgrade him onto an MT. So Curtis is going to be using that today. I've got my Marshalltown here, cutting in brush. I've got the splash brush, 1200 speed skim and pole, and we've got our scabby old plaster mixer with a refiner mega mixer paddle on there, and we've got the gauging trowels. Unable to move the bed out of the room, which is an absolute ball ache, but we'll get around it. And Curtis is nice and nimble and light, so he's going to bounce around on there and have a good practice on plastering the middle of the ceiling above the bed, and I'll be skirting round him on the work tools. Nice and sticky. We'll show you the sort of thickness that we're looking at on this first coat. So this is a magic mix. I've got about 30% bonding coat in, and the idea of that is to get over this pattern. You can see that's the sort of thickness we're looking at. Probably looking at around 3mm, 2.5, 3mm. Something like that on the first one. You see that first coat has lost 90% of the pattern. You don't want any of the pattern coming through really. Maybe a little bit's okay, but you want to try and cover all that pattern on your first coat. Your base coat is what we call it. And the top coat it'll be a lot thinner. You see there, it's still come through a tiny bit. Just here. There, look. Still come through a tiny bit. But the top coat will take care of that anyway. So we're adding about probably another 2mm on top of this. Not too much pressure makes it still quite supple and wet. We're just trying to lose those lines. There you go. Sounds nice as well. You're using your eyes and your ears. If you can hear your trowel scraping off them tips, you know you're doing something wrong. You'll be pulling plaster off. But that's about bang on what you're doing there, pal. Yep. Curtis has been doing a bit of sand and cement this week at college. What do you think to sand and cement, Kurt?
It's alright.
A lot different to what you're doing now, isn't it?
Yeah, a lot different.
Did they get you mixing the sand and cement, or was it like pre-mixed?
It was pre-mixed because from the brickies.
Oh, you used the brickies mix?
Yeah, the annoying ones.
He says there was some wars between the trainee plumbers and the trainee plasterers. Who won?
Us. We were saying we were all messy, but then they can't do their job.
Nonsense, we're not messy, are we?
No.
Know what I'm talking about. Kurt's being a good boy today and keeping his phone in the van to avoid the dramas of last week.
I haven't got a girlfriend anymore, so it's alright.
So all these girls ringing him up.
You've got a top knot and an ear piercing.
The top knot and the ear piercing, is that what pulls them in? I've got no chance. I might be able to get a back knot. I won't be able to get a top knot. I'll try and show you this with one hand, which is a bit awkward. Yeah, the 1200mm speed skim. I've talked about the speed skim on the other skimming video that I did, the skimming tutorial, but they are game changers, especially for ARTEX ceilings, because the skim tends to hang around a little bit. It stays nice and wet, and the wetter the better for these speed skims. They're not very good once the gear picks up. Once your gear's picked up a bit, you're back on the MT, but while the gear's wet, they're really good to give a quick flatten off. Another good thing about the speed skim is it pulls quite a lot of excess plaster off, especially when you've just laid on. So it makes you more efficient. Obviously you pull some back with your trowel if you're troweling up as well, but this will do a better job, and it will level everything out and show you where any small hollows are. Scrape that off and use it elsewhere. So you end up using less gear when you use the speed skim. You've been watching Trowel Talk, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video has been helpful for you. Please consider subscribing, and we will see you next week. Nice one.